Warm sunlight drapes over the quiet stone streets of Croatia's coast. The air holds a whisper of salt and rosemary. And somewhere ahead, a hidden cove waits for you. It's secret yet untouched. Before we begin, find a place where you can rest. Let your body sink into comfort. Tonight, I'll take you on a quiet journey to a place where only peace waits for you. Put on your headphones if you can, and stay with me until the very end, as each word will guide you deeper into the night. You breathe in slowly, noticing how the air here feels softer than anywhere you've been. The warmth brushes against your skin like the tender edge of late summer, still bright, but without the rush of midsummer crowds. September in Croatia is a secret known to only a few, and you've arrived just as the sea turns its gentlest shade of blue. From the terrace where you stand, you can see the old harbor below. A scattering of fishing boats sways lazily. Gulls drift on the breeze, their calls carried far out over the calm water. In the distance, faint hills dissolve into a sky so pale it seems painted in watercolor. There's a scent in the air that you'll notice again and again on this journey: warm bread baking in the morning light. It lingers now, carried from a small bakery tucked behind the harbor wall. And though you don't yet know it, this simple aroma will follow you in ways you can't yet imagine. You take your first steps down the narrow lane, smooth stone beneath your feet, the sound of your footsteps softened by centuries of wear. Shutters on either side stand open, wooden frames faded by the sun revealing glimpses of cool, shaded rooms inside. Somewhere, a radio plays a low, crackling melody, an old song sung in a language you can't quite catch, but it wraps around you like something familiar. The world moves slowly here, slower than you thought possible, and each moment stretches out, inviting you to notice details you might miss anywhere else. A cat sprawls across a windowsill, tail twitching lazily. Laundry sways gently between buildings like soft flags marking the rhythm of the day. You pass a woman arranging figs at a small market stall, their skins a deep, glossy purple. She offers you one without a word, the fruit still warm from the morning sun bursting with sweetness the moment you taste it. You thank her in a soft voice and she nods as if she's been expecting you. Ahead, the lane curves toward the water. The sound changes as you walk. Cobblestones give way to smooth keystones. The hush of the breeze joins the slow lap of the tide against the wall. Somewhere far beyond, you can hear the faint hum of an engine, perhaps a boat heading toward one of the outer islands. You pause, letting your gaze drift to the horizon. The sea here holds a color you haven't seen before, somewhere between turquoise and silver, shifting with the angle of the light. And for a moment, you simply breathe, feeling the air fill your lungs, the warmth resting on your shoulders, the quiet settling deeper into your bones. There's a small cafe just by the water, a few tables scattered beneath the shade of olive trees. You find yourself drawn there, and the waiter greets you with a nod as if you're already known. He brings you a cup of strong, fragrant coffee, its surface glistening with tiny ripples from the gentle sea breeze. You wrap your hands around the cup, letting its warmth seep in. Inhaling the rich scent before taking a slow sip. Somewhere across the harbor, a bell tolls once, the sound low and mellow hanging in the air before it fades. It's a signal of something beginning, though you're not yet sure what. The scent of warm bread drifts by again, and you realize the bakery is closer than you thought. You finish your coffee and rise, the sun now climbing higher, the light softening as it reflects off the water. You turn toward a narrow archway that leads away from the quay, the stone cool beneath your fingertips as you pass. Something in you knows that beyond this arch, the day will open into something even more beautiful, and that the quiet you've found here is only the beginning. And so you take your first step through the arch into a world that seems to breathe just for you. Beyond the archway, the lane narrows again, but the light changes, becoming softer, more golden, as if the stones themselves are holding the warmth of centuries. You move slowly, feeling the uneven surface beneath your feet. The quiet here is deeper, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves from a vine that curls overhead. The scent of warm bread returns, richer, now mingling with a trace of fresh herbs, and you follow it without really deciding to, letting it guide you through the gentle twists of the street. A small shop appears, its door open wide, a wooden sign swaying gently above. Inside, shelves are lined with loaves of all shapes, their crusts burnished to a deep amber. The baker, a man with kind eyes and hands dusted in flour, greets you with a nod. Without a word, he offers you a small roll, still steaming from the oven. The first bite is soft and fragrant, the taste of rosemary and sea salt blooming on your tongue. You close your eyes for a moment, and the warmth of the bread blends with the warmth of the morning air, a comfort so complete it feels like you've always been here. Stepping back into the sunlight, you notice the street widening, opening onto a small square where an ancient fountain murmurs quietly at its center. The water, clear as glass, catches the light and scatters it in tiny sparks across the worn stone. Children play nearby, their laughter soft as if they've learned to match the pace of this place. You pause by the fountain, trailing your fingers in the cool water, feeling the contrast against the sun-warmed skin of your arm. A single olive leaf drifts past your hand and circles the basin before slipping through the drain at the base, like a tiny boat disappearing toward the sea. From the far side of the square, the sound of footsteps approaches. A woman in a light linen dress walks slowly toward you, carrying a basket lined with cloth. She smiles as she passes, the faint aroma of lavender following her, and you watch her turn down a lane shaded by tall, swaying cypress trees. You follow the curve of the square toward the waterfront again, but this time, the view opens not onto the harbor but a stretch of quiet promenade, lined with benches, each worn smooth by years of visitors who have sat here watching the tides change. You sit for a moment, letting your gaze rest on the horizon. The water shifts from pale silver to a deeper sunlit green. A single sailboat glides by its white canvas, catching the breeze. the only sound the gentle hiss of water against its hull. The bread's aroma lingers on your hands, mingled now with the faint salt of the sea air. And you realize this small detail, this recurring note, has become a kind of anchor in the slow rhythm of your morning. A soft breeze moves in from the water, carrying with it the distant hum of voices from a cafe further along the shore. The sound draws you onward, and you rise feeling the sun ease across your shoulder as you begin to walk again. Ahead, the promenade narrows into a path bordered by wild rosemary and thyme. The scent rises as you brush past, and somewhere beyond you can hear the rhythmic flap of fabric, perhaps laundry strung between seaside houses moving like quiet flags in the wind. You take one last look back at the square, at the fountain, at the small bakery door still open to the morning. And you wonder, if you return here later, will the same loaf be waiting warm and fragrant? With that thought, you step forward, following the path as it curves gently out of sight toward the first glimpse of a hidden cove. The path threads along the water's edge, bending around pale stone outcrops, then slipping into pockets of shade where olives press their silver leaves toward the light. You walk slowly, unhurried, feeling how September carries summer's warmth without its hurry, how the day opens like a book you can read at any pace. Every few steps, the sea speaks in a softer tongue, a hush against the shore, a faint glitter folding and unfolding in the shallows. You pause. Let your breath match the tide, inhale with the swell, exhale with the retreat, until your shoulders settle and your thoughts loosen their grip. Ahead, the path narrows, then widens again onto a low terrace of limestone. The stone is warm beneath your palm when you touch it, its surface smoothed by centuries of sun and footsteps. Above, a line of swallows arcs and scatters ink marks written across the sky. The air shifts, bringing a trio of scents that belong to this coast salt pine resin and something lightly sweet. You smile as you recognize it, the familiar aroma of warm bread, distant but distinct, as if a baker has opened a door somewhere inland and the island has breathed out to meet you. The motif returns like a friend who keeps finding you in a crowd, and each time arrives with new meaning, comfort, direction, memory. You follow the terrace until you find steps cut straight into the rock, shallow, careful, weathered, smooth by many careful feet. They spill down to a small platform at the waterline, where a ladder descends into a pool of transparent green. The sea here is so clear, you can see the veins on the stones beneath netted lines like leaves pressed in glass. You sit and slip off your shoes. Let the soles of your feet meet the warm stone. Then, inch by inch, dip your toes into the water. It's cooler than the air, clean, bracing, but kind. You breathe in and out, feeling the contrast wake the skin and then soothe it. A breeze gathers, the daily mistral, the locals say, arriving most afternoons in summer and lingering softly into early fall, steering sailboats like a friendly hand. A skiff glides near the inlet, painted the blue of forget-me-nots. A fisherman at the oars raises his chin in greeting. The lines at the corners of his eyes fold into a held-back smile. You can tell he said good morning to this cove 1,000 times. He calls something you can't quite catch, then points his oar toward the far headland where cypress trees climb a slope. He mimes a curve with his hand around there. Hidden beach. You nod, palm to heart. He taps the brim of his cap and rows on, the skiff leaving a path of light that closes as gently as it opened. You stand, shoes dangling from your fingers, and follow a ribbon of crushed shells that glints like sugar in the sun. The shells crunch lightly underfoot, a soft percussion to the day's melody. A lizard flashes over the stones, emerald, quick, then pauses as if remembering to warm itself again, returning to stillness with theatrical care. A narrow passage opens between two shoulder-high boulders. You slide sideways to fit through, the stone cool against your forearms, and emerge into a pocket cove so quiet it feels secret even from the wind. The water here has the blue of sleep just before dreams, deeper at the middle feather light at the rim where it laps at a shore of smooth, rounded pebbles. You wade to your ankles, the pebbles shifting softly, massaging the arches of your feet. Each step releases a clink like glass beads in a small purse. You watch the patterns your toes leave and how the sea erases them patiently, approvingly, as if to say, no rush, we'll try again. On the far side, tucked into shadow, is a tiny chapel stone walls, a wooden door, a bell tower the size of a birdhouse. You cross to it with quiet steps. The door is open just enough to spill a stripe of shade across the threshold. Inside, the air is cooler, faintly scented of beeswax and dry flowers. A single icon glimmers beneath a film of dust. You bow your head not for ceremony, but for stillness, and listen to your breath ease into the room's hush. There's a ledger on a small table, its pages signed in many hands. The dates arrange themselves in summers and Septembers year after year. You run your fingertip along the edges and find a pressed olive leaf sandwiched between pages green gone to bronze. A quiet relic, a line handwritten long ago, rests near it. Sailors leave one good wish here. You don't know the tradition, but you leave a wish anyway. Small, simple, then close the book as gently as you found it. Outside, you sit on the chapel step, and here comes another rotation of the day's flavors. Someone down the coast has fired a clay oven. Smoke threads the air with the faintest perfume of char and wheat. The bread motif returns again, evolving from morning comfort into a wayfinder. Whenever you catch it, you feel sure you're on the right path. A couple passes along the rocks, soft laughter sandals dangling from their fingers. They greet you as if you're neighbors. The man points to a rounded stone, pale as moon milk, and tells you in a careful voice that it's a balancing rock. A little coastal habit, he says. People stack them, and the sea decides how long they last. You watch as the woman sets two pebbles, then a third, then a fourth, a small tower that trembles, holds, and then with a tidy nod to gravity settles into a shorter shape that looks somehow more true. You all smile, understanding that balance is sometimes the art of accepting the shape that remains. You walk on. The cove widens to a star of tiny inlets, each with its own color and sound. In one, the water is green glass. In another, a faint choir of bubbles rises where the seabed breathes. You run your fingers through the surface, feeling how water clings in sheets, then releases in beads. The sun warms your shoulders. The breeze lifts the fine hairs along your arms. And the world holds still enough for you to hear your own heartbeat, slow, steady, friendly. A hush of history comes ashore with the waves. The stones under your feet were once part of roads laid by Romans, so say the islanders worn to satin by sandals and rain. Later Venice stenciled its lions here, leaving stories carved into lintels and pilings. You remember a guidebook line how September was the quiet season even in those times when trade slowed and the sea's temper softened. You imagine a baker then too, flour dust floating like morning light, and the same fragrance rising to the same windows. The American in you, some porch memory you carry, wakes when you come upon a low bench set under a fig tree. It could be any small town seat at the end of a walk, the kind of place where evening iced tea meets the first crickets. Only here it's a tin cup of cool spring water from a clay jug left for passers-by. You lift it, drink, and feel a thread of gratitude pulled tight across oceans. How familiar. Comfort wears many faces, and all of them are kind. You rest your head against the fig tree's shadow, breathe once more with the sea's metronome, and count the sensations as a way of honoring the moment. 5 sights, 4 sounds, 3 touches, 2 scents, 1 taste. Sights the terrace of light, the swallow ink, the balancing stones, the chapel's stripe of shade, the green glass pool. Sounds tiny clinks of pebbles, a swallow's wing stitch, water's hush, distant laughter, touches warm stone, cool water, breeze along the wrist, scents, pine resin, warm bread. Taste the memory of coffee now softened into sweetness by time. A gull lands near you, tilting its head as if reading your thoughts, then steps sideways to peck delicately at a crumb of something unseen. The moment feels gently funny, so small and perfectly precise that you laugh under your breath, and the sound seems to surprise the bird as much as it surprises you. When you stand again, the day has taken on that glowing quality September does so well, light as honey shadows with soft edges. Your body feels both grounded and light, like a stone warmed in a pocket, like a note held after the song is over. Near the far end of the cove, you discover a stair, sunk into rock, narrow, curving. As you descend, your hand trails along a groove, worn by thousands of palms and old kindness the island offers every traveler. The stair turns, then opens to a ledge with a view that hushes thought, the Adriatic unrolled silk blue, islands resting like sleeping animals on the horizon. And just below the ledge, a slit of path that seems to slide into the cliff and then reappear beyond it. You listen, and there it is again. A tender breath of wheat and heat, the bread's warmth, traveling farther than it should. Somewhere ahead, another village or a lone oven, a promise folded into the air. You take one more slow breath, feel the steadiness of the stone underfoot, the friendship of the breeze on your cheek, and the invitation of the path curving into what you cannot yet see. A small smile comes easily, because you know the island is not done revealing itself. Not yet. And as you step toward that slit of path, guided by the softest trace of warmth and wheat, you sense that something quietly beautiful waits around the bend. A new shade of blue, a new kindness, a new story finding you where the rock meets the sea. You follow the curve unhurried, letting the sea's hush carry you forward, toward the next turn of the journey where the path will open and the day will teach you another way to rest. The path slips into shadow, the cliff rising on your left, while on the right the sea opens wide, its surface textured by a gentle afternoon breeze. The sound here changes, waves brushing the stone in a low, continuous hush. You walk slowly, the warmth of the day mellowing into something softer. Shadows grow longer, and the air feels like a hand resting lightly at the back of your neck, guiding you forward without hurry. The recurring scent of warm bread drifts in again, unexpected given the remoteness of the path. This time, it mingles with the faint spice of sun-dried herbs tucked between the rocks. You breathe deeper, almost tasting it on your tongue, and it makes you wonder how far can an aroma travel over the water. Rounding a bend, you find a viewpoint, a flat shelf of stone marked by an old wooden bench. The bench is sun-bleached, its slats silvered by years of salt and light. You sit feeling the wood warm beneath your palms. Below the sea is a painter's palette emerald, where the sun cuts deep cobalt, where the shadow of the cliff leans in. A gull drifts overhead, its wings holding still in the updraft. In the distance, a line of small islands lies like stepping stones across the horizon. You imagine hopping from one to the next, each revealing its own quiet corner, its own version of the sea's song. Somewhere inland, a bell chimes two slow notes, rich and low. They hang in the air like drops of honey before dissolving into the hum of cicadas. You feel the sound in your chest as much as you hear it. Standing again, you follow the curve of the cliff until you notice a weathered wooden sign nailed to a cypress trunk. The letters carved by hand read, Uvala Mira Bay of Peace. The arrow points downward toward a set of worn stone steps half hidden by wild rosemary. You take the descent slowly, the scent of the herbs rising as your feet brush past. Each step opens a wider view of the bay below, a crescent of pale sand water shifting in shades from glass clear to deep turquoise. At the far end, a few fishing boats rest on their sides, pulled high onto the beach. When your feet touch the sand, you feel its warmth soak through your soles. The grains are fine and pale, glinting like sifted flour. A child runs past, chasing a small yellow ball that rolls lazily toward the water. Laughter follows him, light as the breeze. Near the boats, an elderly man mends a net. His fingers move with practiced patience, weaving and tightening each knot. You greet him with a smile, and he gestures for you to come closer. From a small crate beside him, he lifts a loaf wrapped in cloth. Breaking off a piece, he offers it to you. The bread is simple, crust thin and golden, crumb airy and warm. It carries the faint tang of olive oil, the comfort of something made by hand. You chew slowly, letting the taste settle. The motif returns again, and with it comes a quiet thought that every offering of bread here is also an offering of belonging. You sit on the edge of a boat, letting your toes sink into the sand. The tide whispers nearby, a soft, steady rhythm that feels like the island's own breathing. The light has shifted, bathing everything in a muted gold. In this moment, you sense that the day's pace has slowed to match your own heartbeat. Beyond the curve of the bay, the path will lead you somewhere new, perhaps into the heart of another village, perhaps to a view where the sea meets the sky without a seam. But for now, you stay seated, listening to the water's soft applause, feeling the bread's warmth linger in your hands. When you finally stand, you take one last look at the Bay of Peace. The sand, the boats, the net, the quiet generosity of a stranger. You step back onto the path with the certainty that there are still more quiet wonders ahead, and you walk toward them, letting the rhythm of the waves guide your steps. The path winds away from the Bay of Peace, climbing gently through terraces of stone and earth. Each level is dressed in olive trees, their trunks gnarled and silver leaves flickering between green and light as the wind turns them. You pause halfway up, resting your hand on the low wall. From here you can see the whole curve of the bay. You just left, boats resting like sleeping animals, the sand still glowing faintly in the late light. A faint thread of music drifts upward, the kind that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Perhaps a guitar played on a porch, perhaps just the wind through wires. The scent of warm bread follows you again, this time more distant, like a memory still warm to the touch. It mingles with the sharper notes of crushed sage beneath your shoes. You think about how each encounter with that aroma feels slightly different first, comfort then direction now, nostalgia as if the journey itself is teaching you to notice more. The terraces give way to a lane, narrow, cobbled, lined with shuttered houses painted in the soft colors of seashells. Some shutters are ajar, revealing slivers of cool shadow within. On a windowsill, a jar of wildflowers catches the light, pale yellow blooms with petals thin as tissue. A cat follows you for a short while, weaving between your ankles' tail, brushing your calf like a wordless greeting. When it decides your company is no longer necessary, it slips away into a doorway, disappearing into the cool interior. The lane opens into a square paved with smooth stone worn like the palm of an old hand. At its center, a low table is set beneath a fig tree. An elderly woman sits there, slicing ripe tomatoes into a bowl. She gestures for you to sit, without asking where you've come from. Just the natural assumption here that travelers are always welcome. She offers you a plate tomatoes glistening with olive oil, sprinkled with flakes of sea salt. The taste is bright and sweet, the oil smooth as silk. You eat slowly, listening to her voice as she tells you half in English, half in her own tongue about a time when this square filled with music every September. Musicians from the nearby islands would gather here, she says, and play until the stars blurred into morning. As she speaks, she slides a small basket toward you. Inside, wrapped in cloth, is a loaf of bread, still warm, still fragrant. You break a piece, dip it into the oil, and take a slow bite. The motif returns again, now tied to generosity, to stories shared without urgency. When you rise to leave, she presses the rest of the loaf into your hands, shaking her head when you try to refuse. "For your walk," she says. Her voice is soft but certain. Leaving the square, you follow a narrow path toward the sound of running water. It leads you to a small stone bridge arched over a trickling stream. The stream feeds into a basin where locals fill pitchers, the water so clear you can see the tiny fish drifting lazily in the shade. You cup your hands, take a sip. It's cool enough to startle your tongue, but in a way that wakes you gently. You feel it spread through you like a quiet pulse of energy. The path beyond the bridge slopes downward again toward the shoreline. This time, the sea greets you with a different mood, its surface broken into small, playful ripples that catch the light like scattered coins. You sit on a flat rock just above the tide line, break a piece of the bread from your basket, and watch as the crumbs drift into the water, each one claimed by a flash of silver as small fish dart forward. The horizon deepens to a richer blue. A soft amber light brushes the cliffs ahead, and you sense that you're walking toward the part of the day when the island begins to slow, even by its own gentle standards. The sound of the waves becomes your companion again, steady, unhurried, guiding you onward to wherever the path will bend next. And just before you stand, you catch that same thread of music from earlier, closer now, clearer, drawing you forward into the next chapter of the island's quiet welcome. The music leads you along the curve of the shoreline, faint at first, then growing richer with each step. It's not loud, just the easy confidence of notes played for pleasure, not performance. The air carries it in gentle waves like the tide carrying small shells to shore. You pass a line of low houses with walls the color of honey, their doors open to the sea breeze. From one doorway, the scent of rosemary mingles with wood smoke, and faintly, again, the warmth of baking bread, now so familiar, it feels like part of your own story. You slow your pace, letting the fragrance stay with you as long as it will. The path widens into a small pier. Wooden planks creak beneath your feet. A few fishermen sit at the inn repairing their lines, their voices low and steady, punctuated by the quiet splash of fish returning to the depths. One of them lifts a hand in greeting, and you return the gesture. Beyond the pier, the music grows clearer. It's coming from a shaded courtyard tucked between two stone buildings. You step through the open gate and find a group of locals gathered around a table, instruments in hand, an old guitar, a tamburica, and a violin whose varnish catches the last of the sun. The players nod in welcome, but they don't stop. Their song is a slow dance part, lullaby part memory, carried on the plucked strings and the soft hum of a voice that could belong to anyone's grandfather. You sit on a low wall at the courtyard's edge, letting the rhythm settle into your breathing. A woman you haven't seen before appears with a clay jug and small cups. She pours something pale and cool, setting one in your hand. It tastes faintly of lemon and herbs, crisp against the warm air. She smiles without speaking, as though this is simply what the island does, offers what you didn't know you wanted until it's in your hand. The bread motif finds you again, not directly, but in the form of a basket passed between the musicians. They tear off pieces between verses, dipping them into a dish of olive oil at the center of the table. One man gestures for you to take some. You do, and the flavor is bright with rosemary and sea salt, the crust still holding a trace of the oven's heat. As the music drifts into another tune, the courtyard seems to change with it. The light softens, shadows lengthen, and the first hints of evening slide into the edges of the day. Above, a few swallows loop, once twice, then vanish toward their roosts. You feel a quiet gratitude here, gratitude for the welcome, for the music, for the way this moment asks for nothing but your presence. There's no hurry, no schedule, only the slow turning of strings and the sea's breath just beyond the walls. When the last notes fade, the musicians rest their instruments against the wall. Someone lights a small lantern, and its glow brushes the stone with gold. The woman refills your cup. You thank her, and she answers with a nod, her eyes reflecting the lamplight. You stay for a while longer, listening to the soft hum of conversation. Eventually, you stand offering a wave to those who look up. The gate swings lightly behind you as you step back into the lane. The air has cooled just enough for you to notice the difference on your skin. Somewhere further along, you see the first flicker of another light, perhaps another gathering, perhaps a window left open to the night. The music still hums in your memory as you walk, its rhythm weaving with the sound of your steps. The path ahead is darker now, but not unfriendly. And in the distance, the faint aroma of bread rises again, as if to say you're still on the right road. You follow it, knowing the night will bring its own kind of welcome, and that the next bend in the path will open to something as quietly beautiful as this. The last warmth of the day lingers in the stone beneath your feet. Even as the air cools, the ground keeps its memory of the sun. The path narrows again, drawing you between two old walls where ivy spills in dark green cascades. Somewhere ahead, a soft glow wavers, a lantern swaying gently in the breeze. The faint aroma of warm bread returns, wrapping itself around you like a shawl. This time, it's accompanied by the scent of something sweet, figs simmering in honey perhaps, or citrus peel steeped in syrup. Your steps slow, as if your body already knows the welcome waiting ahead. You emerge into a small courtyard, its edges framed by fig trees heavy with fruit. A single wooden table stands at the center, set with mismatched plates and candles in glass jars. Two older men are seated there, speaking in low tones, their words rising and falling like the tide. One looks up, catches your eye, and gestures to the empty chair between them. You sit, and almost instantly, a plate is set before you, a thick slice of bread still warm, its crust dusted with flour. Beside it, a shallow dish of olive oil glistens under the candlelight. You tear a piece, free dip it, and taste the oil is grassy and rich, the bread soft enough to yield at the slightest pressure. The men continue their conversation without breaking the calm, but one reaches over occasionally to refill your glass with a pale golden wine that smells faintly of apples. It's cool, crisp, and easy like water that has learned a little bit of sunshine. Overhead, the first stars prick the deepening blue. The courtyard quiets further. You realize the village has begun its slow retreat into night. Somewhere in the distance, a door closes with a gentle thud. A cat leaps to a rooftop, its shadow gliding along the tiles. The men speak less now, and you find yourself watching the way the candlelight paints their faces, creases at the eyes, shadows in the hollows of their cheeks. You wonder how many nights they've sat here, bread and wine between them, marking the end of another day in September. When the bread is gone, one of them slides a small plate toward you. On it rests a single fig split open to reveal its ruby heart. You lift it carefully, the honeyed flesh glistening in the candlelight, and take a slow bite. Sweetness blooms on your tongue, richer for the coolness of the night air. The aroma of bread lingers, still woven now with the scent of fig leaves. You realize that the motif has changed again, becoming part of the night, part of rest itself. After a time, the older man nearest the door nods toward the far side of the courtyard. "There," he says, in a voice textured by age. You turn to see a narrow archway, beyond which the sea glimmers faintly in the starlight. You thank them both, stand and make your way toward it. The arch leads to a set of steps descending directly to the water. At the bottom, a small stone platform extends into the shallows. You sit there, the sea brushing softly at your feet, stars brightening above. A faint glow on the horizon hints at another village, perhaps the next point of your journey. You breathe in the night air, cool, salted and threaded with the memory of bread. The sound of the waves becomes the only rhythm you need. You stand again, following the curve of the shoreline. The stars grow denser, the path quieter, the world slowing to the pace of your own heartbeat. And somewhere ahead, you feel it, a soft wonder, gathering, waiting for you in the next turn of the night. The path hugs the shoreline now, so close that the sea's whisper keeps brushing your left ear, as if it wants to speak directly to you. The night has settled fully, its colors reduced to silver indigo, and the pale gold of lanterns flickering far away. Each step is unhurried. The stones are cool, underfoot smooth, where centuries of passage have worn away their edges. You find yourself slowing, not from tiredness, but from a quiet instinct to listen. The scent of warm bread returns, soft, faint, but unmistakable. At night it feels different, almost like a memory you've stepped inside. It's gentler now, mingled with the salt air and the faint sweetness of night-blooming jasmine. The motif has shifted again, no longer a guide toward a place, but a reminder of every kindness and welcome you've received so far. Ahead, the path opens to a small harbor, but not the working harbor of morning. This one is a half moon of still water, reflecting the stars so clearly that the line between sky and sea almost disappears. A few fishing boats drift here, unmoving, their ropes creaking faintly. On the far side of the harbor stands a chapel no larger than a cottage. Its white walls seem to glow in the starlight, and from within comes the steady, low hum of voices singing. You cross the harbor's edge, the sound of your steps softened by the worn wood of the dock. The chapel door is open. Inside, a handful of people stand in a circle holding candles. The flame light plays gently over their faces, faces lined and young, weathered and smooth, each carrying the same calm expression. The melody they sing is slow, almost like breathing, a sound without urgency, meant to carry you along rather than pull you forward. You step inside without thinking. The air is cool, touched with the scent of beeswax and salt. One of the singers turns slightly towards you, and though their eyes are closed, they shift to make room. You stand at the edge of the circle, candlelight touching your skin. The bread motif returns in yet another form. On a small table at the side of the chapel, a loaf rests beside a dish of oil and a cluster of grapes. It's not for eating now. It's part of the offering, part of the way this place speaks to the sea and the sky. When the song ends, silence fills the room, not empty, but full of something you can feel in your chest. The singers slowly open their eyes, exchange small nods, and begin to drift out into the night. One woman remains behind, tending the candles. She sees you and smiles, not a greeting, not a farewell, just a look that says you belong here for as long as you need. You take a seat on one of the benches, and for a while, you just listen to the soft slap of water outside, to the faint creak of wood, to your own breath, slowing. Eventually, you stand and step back into the open air. The harbor is even quieter now, the stars reflected more sharply in the water. You cross back along the dock, each plank whispering under your feet. And just as you leave the harbor's curve, you glance back. The chapel door is still open, its candlelight spilling out onto the stones. The scent of bread lingers faintly in that light, as if it has decided to follow you through the rest of the night. The path ahead is darker, but you don't feel the need for more light. The quiet wonder of this moment of the harbor, the song "The Bread" in its silent roll has settled into you, becoming part of your own rhythm. You keep walking, letting the sea guide you, knowing that the night still holds more to show you, and that each step will lead you deeper into its calm. The path carries you onward, away from the harbor's lantern light, into a stretch of coast where the night feels vast and unbroken. The only sound is the hush of the sea, each wave arriving like a slow breath, each retreat a quiet release. You match your steps to its rhythm without thinking. The air has cooled further, and with it comes a shift in scent, salt sharper now, pine, resin deeper, and somewhere beneath it all, the faintest trace of warm bread. You smile when you notice it. At night, the motif is almost a secret between you and the island, as if only those listening closely can hear it. Ahead, the cliffside rises, but the path finds a way around, slipping between stone and sea like a ribbon of shadow. You pass under an arch of rock, its surface brushed with lichen that glows faintly in the starlight. Beyond, the view opens suddenly to a stretch of water so still it mirrors every constellation above. A single wooden boat floats there, tethered loosely to a post driven into the stone. No one is in sight yet. The boat rocks gently, as if someone has just stepped out of it. The rope creaks. The water sighs against the hull. And somewhere in the dark, a fish leaps, leaving a brief silver arc before vanishing again. You linger here, leaning against the post. The night feels thick with time, like it could hold you for hours without a single thing changing. The bread's aroma drifts back on a shift of wind, this time mingled with smoke from a fire you can't yet see. Following the path, you eventually glimpse it, a small fire built on a flat of sand, its glow hidden from the harbor. Around it sit three figure silhouettes in the flickering light. They're speaking quietly in Croatian, their voices low and even like water moving over smooth stones. One of them spots you and gestures toward the fire. You step closer and the warmth greets your skin instantly. They make space for you without question, handing you a clay mug filled with something warm and herbal mint chamomile, maybe both. The steam curls up into the cool air, carrying a sweetness that settles in your chest when you sip. Beside the fire, a small wire rack holds a loaf of bread over the embers. Its crust has darkened its scent, carrying easily in the stillness. You watch as one of the men lifts it carefully, sets it on a cloth, and breaks it into pieces to pass around. When it reaches you, the heat presses against your palms, the crust giving way to softness that almost melts. The bread tastes faintly smoky, the herbs baked into it releasing their flavor only when you chew slowly. You notice how in the firelight each bite seems to connect everyone sitting here, the same warmth shared, the same flavor carrying through. No one speaks much, and no one needs to. The fire crackles, the waves move, the night holds. You feel the bread's heat spread from your hands to your shoulders, as if it's teaching your body how to rest even more deeply. When the loaf is gone, one of the men leans back, looking toward the sky. You follow his gaze. Above you, the Milky Way cuts a pale river through the dark, so bright you can see its texture. The others watch too, the silence between you richer than words. Eventually, you stand brushing sand from your palms. They nod as you leave, their faces warm in the fire's glow. The scent of bread lingers in your hair, as if it means to follow you a while longer. The path continues into deeper shadow, the sound of the sea growing softer like a whisper, meant only for you. Somewhere ahead, the land dips toward another curve of the coast. You feel the quiet promise of it, another moment, waiting, another piece of the night to carry with you. And so you walk on each step, slow, unhurried, each breath carrying the calm deeper into you. The path dips gently, guiding you toward a hollow in the coastline where the sound of the sea changes. Softer now, almost like the breath of someone sleeping nearby. You step onto sand that is darker than the pale beaches, before finer too, each grain cool and smooth against your feet. Above, the cliffs curve inward, sheltering the cove from the wind. The air here feels still, as though it's holding its breath. You pause, letting your eyes adjust to the deeper shadow. And then you see it, the faint outline of an old stone jetty half sunk into the tide, its surface draped with seaweed like strands of green silk. The bread's scent drifts in again, unexpected but familiar this time, carrying a softness that feels almost like memory in the making. You can't tell if it's real or imagined, but the moment you notice it, your body eases, as if the island itself is reminding you that you're not alone here. You follow the curve of the cove until you reach the jetty. Sitting at its far end is a lantern unlit, but still faintly warm to the touch when you pick it up. There's no sign of who left it here, only the quiet impression that it was meant to be found. From this low perch, the water lies close enough to touch. You dip your fingers in, feeling the cool slip of the tide. The ripples spread outward, catching what little starlight spills into the cove. In the reflection, the stars appear closer than they should be, like you could gather them in your hands if you were patient enough. A sound draws your attention, the gentle thump of oars in the distance. Soon, a small wooden boat appears around the curve of the rocks, its bow cutting cleanly through the still water. At the oars is a woman, her hair tied back with a scarf the color of wine. She rows without hurry, each stroke measured and quiet. When she reaches the jetty, she smiles in greeting but says nothing. From the space beneath her seat, she lifts a small basket and sets it beside you. Inside, a round loaf of bread, its crust brushed with something glossy olive oil, maybe catching the faint starlight. She breaks it in half, offering you one piece. You take it, the warmth immediate against your palms. The flavor is simple, yet deep salt wheat and the faintest touch of anise seed. As you chew slowly, the sound of the waves fills the pauses between each bite. The bread motif feels different now, not just comfort or guidance, but connection, a bridge between strangers who share the same night. When the bread is gone, she gestures toward the lantern you found. You hand it to her, and she lights it with a match pulled from her pocket. The glow pools across the stones, touching the water with liquid gold. For a moment, the whole cove feels like a room lit just for the two of you. She sets the lantern at the bow of her boat, gives a small nod, and rows back into the darkness. The light follows her until it's just a dot on the water. Then nothing but stars again. You sit a while longer on the jetty, the taste of bread still on your tongue, the cool air folding around you. There's a fullness in your chest, not heavy, not sad, just the quiet weight of a moment you know will stay with you long after you've left this place. When you finally rise, the sand shifts under your feet as you make your way back to the path. The tide is higher now, its voice deeper, more deliberate. You walk slowly, letting the calm press deeper into you until your thoughts move at the same unhurried pace as the sea. And as the cove disappears behind you, you carry the glow of that lantern inside, steady, warm, and enough to guide you through whatever the night will offer next. The path rises gently, leading you away from the cove's hush, but the calm you found there follows like the echo of a song still humming in your chest. Above the cliffs are pale in the starlight, their edges softened by the night air. The sea remains just out of sight now, its voice muffled but steady like a heartbeat in another room. A faint breeze moves across your face, cool enough to make you notice the warmth still held in your hands from the bread you shared. That warmth feels less like heat now and more like a thread, a connection to the quiet generosity that keeps finding you on this journey. The path bends inland for the first time in hours, carrying you through a grove of olive trees. Their branches arch overhead, silver leaves turning softly in the dim light. The scent here changes, less salt, more earth and green, and beneath it, almost too faint to be real, the bread motif returns. This time, it's mingled with the sweetness of crushed figs from fruit fallen onto the path. As you walk, you notice small lights scattered ahead, not the bright lights of houses, but the steady amber glow of lanterns hung low to the ground. They mark the edge of a garden. Stepping inside, you find rows of herbs, rosemary, sage, lavender, each releasing its fragrance into the cool air. At the center of the garden, a woman kneels by a clay oven, no taller than your waist. Its open mouth glows with embers, and inside a round loaf rests on a flat stone. She looks up, smiles, and gestures for you to sit on a low bench nearby. Without a word, she turns the loaf with a wooden paddle, the crust catching a faint sheen in the firelight. When it's ready, she sets it on a cloth, cuts a small wedge, and hands it to you. This bread is different, denser, with a nutty aroma. You bite into it, and the taste is deep, almost like the earth itself has been baked into it. The warmth spreads through your fingers, up your arms, until you feel it settle at the center of your chest. The woman pours you a small cup of something warm, herbal tea, its steam curling upward into the night. You sip slowly, the flavors of mint and chamomile mingling with the taste of the bread. Around you, the garden hums softly with the sound of insects, their rhythm in time with your breath. When you've finished, she takes the cup, nods once, and returns to her work. You stand, offering a quiet thank you. She doesn't reply, but her smile widens just enough to let you know you've been heard. Leaving the garden, you step back into the olive grove. The path is narrower here, the air cooler. Somewhere ahead, you hear the sea again, its steady voice calling you back toward the shore. As you walk, the lantern glow fades behind you, replaced by the dim silver of moonlight breaking through the trees. The bread scent lingers still, no longer just a flavor or aroma, but a reminder of the way this island keeps opening its hands to you. You follow the sound of the waves, knowing they will lead you to the next quiet place. A place where the night may yet reveal something even more, still more complete. The grove thins, and the path eases you back toward the shoreline. The moon has risen higher now, its light spilling across the water in a silver ribbon that trembles with each breath of the tide. The air carries a coolness that brushes your cheeks, but the warmth from the bread you tasted in the garden still lingers in your chest. The sound of the sea grows clearer, its slow, deliberate rhythm folding into the quiet of the night. As you step onto a stretch of pale sand, you notice how it glows faintly under the moonlight, as if lit from within. The grains are so fine they squeak softly under your feet. At the far end of the beach, a narrow pier stretches into the water. It's made of old wood, its planks silvered and smoothed by years of salt and sun. You walk its length, each step releasing a faint creak. The water on either side is calm enough to hold perfect reflections of the stars, so that for a moment it feels like you're walking between two skies. Halfway down the pier, you find a low bench built into the railing. On it sits a basket covered with a cloth. You glance around, but the beach is empty. Pulling back the cloth, you see a loaf of bread still warm, its crust golden and dusted with flour. Next to it, a small jar of honey catches the moonlight. You sit breaking off a piece of the bread. The steam carries a familiar aroma, wheat sea salt and something floral you can't quite name. Dipping it into the honey, you take a slow bite, and the sweetness blooms against the gentle salt, the flavors balancing like the quiet around you. The bread motif has changed again. Tonight it feels like a gift left without the need for thanks, a kindness that exists simply because the world can hold such things. As you eat, the water laps softly against the pier's posts. The sound is so even, so steady that you find yourself breathing in time with it. Above, the constellations shift almost imperceptibly, and the moonlight drapes the horizon in silver. When the bread is gone, you rest your elbows on the railing and watch as a single fishing boat glides across the ribbon of moonlight. Its lantern sways gently, casting gold ripples over the silver sea. You think of all the hands that have shared bread with you on this journey, and how each meeting, whether brief or quiet, has added its own shape to the night's calm. A breeze moves through, cool but not sharp, carrying the last trace of the bread's warmth away. You don't mind. The feeling it left behind is enough to carry you forward. You stand, leaving the basket where you found it, the cloth, drawn neatly back over the loaf. The pier creaks softly as you walk to shore, each step drawing you deeper into the island's stillness. Ahead, the path turns toward the darker side of the coast, where fewer lights touch the land and the night stretches out in uninterrupted peace. The quiet wonder has reached its fullest here, and you feel it settling into you completely. From here, you sense the journey will change. The island will guide you into an even slower rhythm, a deeper calm, where the night holds you as securely as sleep itself. The path curves into shadow, leaving the moonlit pier behind. Here, the air is cooler, touched with the faint scent of pine and the deeper, darker notes of the sea at night. The waves are slower on this side of the coast, their rhythm drawn out, each one taking its time before folding gently onto the shore. The sound alone begins to work on you, loosening the last bits of thought that might still be clinging to the edges of your mind. Your steps match the waves without effort, 3 paces as the tide comes in, 3 paces as it recedes. The motion is steady, like a lullaby written in salt water. Up ahead, the path dips toward a small pebbled beach. You step down carefully, feeling the smooth stones shift under your weight. They make a sound like soft rain under your feet, a delicate, irregular rhythm that blends with the waves. You notice the bread motif again, but differently now. It's not a scent or a taste in the air. It's the memory of all those moments layered together, the bakery in the harbor, the garden's clay oven, the fire on the sand. Each one drifts through you, warm and unhurried like pages, turning in a book you've already read but love to revisit. On the far side of the beach, a large piece of driftwood rests at the edge of the tide. You sit on it, the wood worn, smooth as silk by years of waves. From here, the horizon is uninterrupted, just water and sky, both softened by the night into shades of deep blue. You close your eyes for a moment, and the sounds grow sharper. The hush of each wave is followed by a faint fizz as the water seeps back through the stones. Somewhere far out, a gull calls, once then falls silent. The night seems to listen with you. When you open your eyes again, the moon has shifted, and its reflection lies directly in front of you on the water. It wavers slightly with the tide, but its light is steady enough to draw your gaze deeper and deeper until it feels less like looking and more like drifting. A small wicker basket sits beside the driftwood, half hidden in shadow. You open it to find a folded cloth. Inside is a single roll of bread, small rounds still warm to the touch, despite the night air. There's no honey this time, no oil, just the simple comfort of the bread itself. You break it in half the crust, giving way with a quiet crackle, and take a slow bite. The flavor is plain, but in that plainness is something whole, wheat salt, the faintest echo of the oven. It's enough. You chew slowly, feeling the warmth spread outward from your chest until your shoulders soften, your jaw loosens, and even your breathing feels quieter. You set the basket aside and lean back on the driftwood. The sound of the tide fills every pause, every space where thought might try to enter. It's as if the island is saying, "You've seen enough now. You can rest." The longer you sit, the more the night gathers around you. The stars seem lower, the horizon closer. You can't tell if minutes or hours are passing, and it doesn't matter. When you finally rise, the stones shift again under your feet, and the sound they make is softer than before. The path climbs gently from the beach, leading you toward a darker stretch of coast where the water moves even slower. You follow knowing you are heading into the final embrace of the journey where there is nothing left to find and everything left to feel. The path becomes softer underfoot, the stones giving way to sand again, this time finer, cooler, as if the night has drawn a gentle veil over the earth. The sound of the waves is slower here, each one arriving with long pauses between, as though the sea itself has settled into sleep. You walk without thinking of distance or time. Your breath moves easily, your body lighter with every step. The cool air brushes your skin in a steady, unchanging way, like the quiet hand of someone who means for you to rest. Ahead, the land opens into a small, sheltered bay. The moonlight slides across the water in a single, unbroken line. On the far side, a low stone wall curves around a patch of wild grass, and in its center stands a single wooden chair facing the sea. You cross to it, your steps sinking slightly into the sand. The chair is smooth, worn to softness by years of salt wind. You sit, and the world seems to pause. The only motion is the water moving in and out, in and out. Each wave feels like an inhale, Each retreat and exhale, and without effort, your breathing falls in time. The bread motif appears once more, not as something you can touch or taste, but as the gentle echo of every place you've been tonight: the harbor at dawn, the cove with the chapel, the firelit beach. It has become a thread running through the entire journey, binding each moment into one continuous comfort. You close your eyes and the sounds sharpen: the hush of water meeting sand, the faint rustle of grass behind you, the quiet thud of your heartbeat in your ears. The night is cool, but never cold. The chair holds you as though it remembers every person who has sat here before, watching the same calm sea. Somewhere nearby, the faintest trace of baking drifts through the air. You don't need to know where it comes from. You only need to feel how it folds into the night, how it reminds you that kindness can arrive in many forms sometimes without ever being seen. Your shoulders settle deeper against the chair. The sea continues its slow breathing. The air has that stillness only late hours know, when the world is mostly asleep and time loses its need to measure itself. You stay for a long while, though you're not sure how long. The stars are steady overhead, the moon resting low on the horizon. When you finally rise, it's with no rush, no pull from anywhere else. Just the quiet decision to follow the path a little farther into the last stretch of the journey. The sand gives way again to a narrow track just wide enough for one person. It curves around the bay, the sound of the water softening even more until it's almost just a memory of sound. You walk slowly, letting the calm sink into you, each step lighter than the one before, until the thought of stopping, of closing your eyes, feels as natural as the tide returning to the shore. The path narrows to a ribbon of pale sand bordered on one side by low dunes, and on the other by the dark, slow-breathing sea. The air is still here, no breeze, no shift, just the gentle coolness that comes when night has fully settled in. Each step feels quieter than the last, as though the earth itself is cushioning your movements. The waves arrive less often now, their rhythm stretch the pauses between them, so long you can almost forget the sound, until it returns low and steady like a reminder that it will always be here. You match your breathing to it without trying. Inhale as the water comes in. Exhale as it slips back into the deep. Along the dune's edge, you see the faint glow of a lantern. It rests on a short wooden table beside a single bench facing the water. No one is here yet. The scene feels prepared, as though it's been waiting just for you. You sit. The bench is smooth and cool under your hands. On the table is a small ceramic plate, and on it, wrapped in linen, a final piece of bread no larger than your palm. You unfold the cloth slowly, as though it might vanish if rushed. The crust is thin, the inside pale and soft, and the scent rises warm despite the hour. You take a bite and the bread melts almost instantly, its flavor simple and whole. It carries nothing extra, just wheat, water, salt, and yet it feels like the distillation of every kindness you've been offered tonight. This is the motif's gentlest form, not guiding, not connecting, but resting. You set the remaining piece back on the plate content, just to hold the feeling it leaves behind. The sea is a dark sheet in front of you, the moon's light lying across it like a single stroke of silver paint. The horizon is barely visible now, blurred into the sky, and the stars above seem to drift closer. Your body feels heavier in the best way, as though each muscle has learned to loosen to let go. Even your thoughts are slower dissolving before they can fully form. There is no past or future here, only the steady comfort of the present moment. Somewhere behind you, the dunes sigh as the sand shifts faintly, perhaps from a settling breeze, perhaps from nothing at all. You close your eyes for a moment, and in the darkness behind them, the sound of the waves becomes even softer, like a voice speaking just to you, telling you that you are safe, that you can rest. When you open your eyes, the lantern's glow is smaller, as if the night is gently folding it away. You stand, take one last look at the sea, and begin to walk again, slower than before, each step easing you toward the journey's end. The path curves only slightly, leading you to a place where the sound of the water fades almost entirely, replaced by a deeper stillness. A stillness that feels like the threshold of sleep itself. You step into it without hesitation, knowing that just beyond lies the final moment of this night's travel, the place where the island will leave you not because it must, but because you are ready. The path levels out into a quiet open space where the sea and sky meet in perfect stillness. No wind moves here, no voices call from far away, only the faintest hum of water far below, like the slow heartbeat of the island itself. The sand beneath your feet is cooler now, smooth and packed, carrying the memory of the day's warmth, but offering it gently as if in a whisper. You take each step without hurry, aware that you've reached the softest edge of the journey. In the center of this space stands a low stone wall circling a shallow fire pit. There is no fire tonight, only the traces of wood ash faintly scented of salt and smoke. You sit on the wall facing the open sea, and the world around you settles even further. The bread motif comes for the final time, not in your hands, not in the air, but within you. It is the sum of every gift, every welcome, every shared moment you've received since the day began. It is comfort now, pure and unshaped, woven into the way you breathe. You close your eyes, letting the silence grow deeper. The sound of the waves is only a murmur so distant it feels like it might be part of your own breathing. Your shoulders rest heavier. Your jaw loosens, your mind opens into the wide, quiet space around you. A thought drifts through, soft and certain. You've arrived. Not at a destination marked on any map, but at a place inside yourself where you can rest completely. The island has guided you here step by step, and now it simply keeps you company, steady and watchful as you begin to let go. Above the stars, lean closer, their light delicate, steady. The moon rests low on the horizon, a silver boat on a dark sea, unhurried in its crossing. The last trace of bread's warmth settles in your chest, fading, not because it's gone, but because you no longer need it to guide you. You've learned its comfort, and it will stay with you now, wherever you go. You take one more slow breath in, and let it fall away the exhale long and easy. The night holds you just as the island has held you all along. If you enjoyed this journey, you're welcome to join me again whenever you wish. There are many more stories waiting for you, ready to guide you into restful dreams.